never seen one of them.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. Tasty. Very tasty little sucker. Oh, look at this. A lobby. Oh, this is a beauty. Look at that. Look at that. Don't even need my knife. Look at that gorgeous color. Oh, man. You know, you luck out sometimes, and right away we were walking down the road, and boom, that bright orange color. You just can't mistake it in the duff. And here it is, and it looks like a pristine mushroom that is going to cook up really well for a dish that we're going to make later. Beautiful bay. I mean, you can't get better than this. Look at the yellow gold. Look at that. I'll let dog get it. Well, here we are in the beautiful forests around Sycamoose looking for lobster mushrooms, and a perfect time of the year. They should be popping right now out of the moss, and this beautiful bright orange color, like very exciting.
Robert's like a living legend. He is a level of expert that doesn't come around all that often and lives in my community. And the older I get, the more I value that kind of thing. And so I remember talking to Robert a long time ago and asking him if you could pick any place and any species, what would it be? And he said Revelstoke, Sycamoose, mid-September lobster mushrooms.
Oh, so cool. This is my first ever lobster. Look at that. What the heck is that? Look at this.
Well, that's a beauty.
It's just gorgeous.
That color. Better to clean them up before you put them in the basket. That way it saves you a lot of time and trouble later. That's so beautiful. Wow, that is going to be delicious. All right, there we go. Oh, exciting. So here's a lobster that has been parasitized. These mushrooms start out as russulas, which is really a inedible mushroom, or not a great tasting mushroom. And then hypholoma, which is another fungus, come along and infect it. And so it takes this white gilled mushroom, turns it this bright orange color, removes the gills, and becomes a delicious mushroom. And I find that just such a fascinating story. See how the gills are still formed, whereas on the lobster, those gills have gone away and they become very smooth. And then the whole mushroom has become much brighter orange red. This is a Russula brevipetes that has been just parasitized by the hypholoma, and now it's starting to go from an inedible mushroom to an edible. Really edible, like seafood edible.
I can't believe how strong they smell. Amazing.
Well, a lot of my books are about plants and fungi of the boreal forest. I think I have about 50-some books that are about plants, and about 600 plants I know well in northern Alberta. And there's only about 1,200 herbaceous plants, so about half of them really have some great medicinals. And then in the fungi world, which I came upon later, like probably only been really delving into it for just over 25 years. I'm continuing the research into the human studies with mushrooms and just showing their benefit for health and well-being, particularly for people undergoing chemotherapy, keeping their immune systems healthy while they're going through that process. And my last book was on psilocybin. I believe it really has some great opportunity and possibilities for people with addictions, anxiety, depression, OCD, post-traumatic stress. There's hundreds of studies out there. It's just a matter of the government sort of getting out of the way and allowing medicine and science to do what it does well.
All right, one of the things on the to-do list for my birthday gift, which was a couple days ago, Robert gave me some chanterelle vodka. And as usual, I had plans for a drink anyway, but when you get gifted something like this, which I have no idea what this tastes like really, this has to end up in a cocktail. So it's day one, kind of first morning, I'm gonna give it a taste and then try and figure out over the next couple days how to put this in a drink. Chanterelles had been steeping in the vodka for 12 years. Whoa. Not aging for 12 years, like actually with the fungus in there. So it's chanterelle, so you expect mushroom, but it's got like these molasses notes. It's got some bitter to it. It's got some fruit for sure, almost like Robert had mentioned apricot, so that's in my brain, but it's also got like some deep plum kind of stuff going on. Almost herbaceous, but I think that's just the bitterness. Anyway, wow. Wow. This shouldn't be hard to work with. Wow, is this just chanterelles? Just wow. Wow.
Whoa! That is a beauty. Wow. Well, that's going in the basket. That might go in the ceviche. Wow. Lovely. Ooh, yeah. Beautiful. Now you see this right here, I'm going to cut that off because that has been attacked by another mold or fungi, and you don't want to be eating that. There you go. Beauty. Wow. So exciting. Loved to cook. My mom was not the greatest cook, so whenever I got a chance in the kitchen as a kid, I always used to make meals and loved that. And as I got older, I always tended to be the cook in the household. And back in the mid to late 70s, with a partner, we started up an organic catering company called Real Meals. That was always fun, and I've always loved the creativity of cooking and making people feel good. Right. Well, you want to slice this, I would say half a centimeter, something like that. Many years ago, with a friend, we started something called the Alberta Herb Gathering, where we brought in herbalists from around the world. And if you serve really good food, it brings together people in community, and then they have a better, comfortable setting where they can really share with each other and create community. And that's what I like about it. I thought it would be novel. I mean, I've loved lobsters and I've eaten them in lots of different forms. I've made mushroom ceviche out of, say, king oysters and shiitake and other firm mushrooms. And it just struck me as kind of, well, you know what? Ceviche is a seafood. Why not do a seafood tasting mushroom as the ceviche? And so that's what kind of came about, and I think it's going to turn out great. I lived in Peru for a couple of years, and ceviche became just a part of basically became my lunch most days. And I just love the idea of the limon, just cooking the protein really quickly, just like you were cooking it.
I'm a fan of cilantro, lime, onion, all that kind of stuff, anytime, all day long, in any way. So really intrigued to see how this ceviche sets up, and I guess how the cures or the flavors blend. Really need to see Robert in the field, kind of getting his jam on.
For mushrooms, because there is chitin, you need to do a little parboil, soften them up a bit, and then do a 24 at least soak in lime so that you actually get the protein fully cooked and you get the flavor. And so I like a little onion, a little garlic, a little ají, a little ajo as they say in Spanish. Oh yeah, this is going to be good. A lot of people really love using cilantro leaf in their ceviche, but I find that it just gets tangled up and it's a little too messy. So my preferred part is actually the stems. Geez, that's just about the right amount, isn't that? All right. Yeah, about a 10-minute parboil should do the job. And of course, just like in Peru, the liquid that's left over from the ceviche is called tiger's milk. Reputed to be the source of masculine virility in Peru. So everybody would take their dish at the end and just suck it back. Go there. Good. So we're going to take this and we're going to refrigerate it, press it down so the juice is just covering everything. 24 hours at least, 48 even better, and then bon appetit.
I use Eastern Cedar. I've used it a bunch. Love the flavor of it. Can you tell me a bit about it? Because we just use it for the flavor, but I really don't know a whole lot about it.
The Western Cedar, Thuja plicata, it really has an antifungal property to it that prevents most mushrooms from growing underneath it. So wherever you find cedar, you're not going to find a whole lot of mushrooms, generally speaking. Medicinally, the leaves are extremely useful just as a tea. You can drink it. It's a great immune booster. It actually increases white blood cell production. You can make a carrier oil with coconut, for example. That is really useful for cervical dysplasia. You can make a essential oil that is put directly onto things like plantar's warts on the bottom of the feet and really digs down and actually destroys the viral component of that. So this is a great medicine, and it's a really popular product in Europe for things like supporting the immune system after there's been for convalescence after there's been a serious illness. So it's one of my favorites.
When I'm using this in the bar or the kitchen, what do I have to be mindful of?
You want to be very careful with tinctures because the alcohol does tend to draw out thujan, which is a neurotoxic ketone and would not be used for long term. So, if you're going to use it for medicine, best to drink it as a tea. If you're going to use it in aperitifs or things of that nature, the alcohol actually is drawing out very powerful thujan that you should avoid on any consistent basis. Should not be used over long term.
Fascinating. Okay, onward. Love it. Well, this one we both know well.
Yes. Yeah, see how they're attached to each other?
You taught me that.
Yeah.
Sarsaparilla I introduced to like everybody on any walk that's ever been with me ever, and y'all know that if you've been with me in the field. It's got a kind of spicy, light spiciness to it. I've joked before, it's kind of like Tommy Hilfiger cologne from the early 90s. Little bit, plays a bit like vanilla in the kitchen. It's got this light layer that's really pleasant and kind of mild things, much like you would use vanilla. I'm not saying it tastes like vanilla here. Really cool ingredient, and we've been using it a fair bit in drinks. And again, just kind of neat to learn more about how this plant impacts physiology.
This is wild sarsaparilla, Aelia nudicalis, because the stem is bare. And indigenous women used to use the stem of this dry as a tea, and used it for increasing breast milk production if it was inadequate. When the root is pulled, it's important to chop it fine while it's fresh, because it gets hard like a rock. And so you want to, and then you would use it as a decoction for the winter to drink a tea. And why would you do that? Because it is one of the few adaptogens on the planet. Being a member of the ginseng family, it means that it modifies our response to stress. It influences something called the HPAA, our hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, meaning that it normalizes hormonal and endocrine function in the body. Traditionally, this was an ingredient in root beers, which were a spring tonic. They were actually meant to revive people's appetites, kind of correct their digestive complaints after a winter of eating salted meats and dried up potatoes and things. And so as a root beer, it actually makes a lot of sense. And in fact, I would love to collaborate with a company that would like to actually use the root as part of a real root beer. I think it would be a great beverage. I know just when you taste the root, you just know it would be good. So one probe goes into the root system, and the other up into the leaf. This is from Music of the Plants company out of Italy. And this is the music that it actually is producing. It has its own vibration as a plant, and it's speaking to us in musical notes to share. And I think it's wonderful. It's one of these ways where we can really reconnect on a deeper level with nature, with sharing the communication.
As we learn more and more about kind of the way that forests communicate, trees feeding other plants and taking care of each other in the mycelial network under the forest floor, the idea of being able to, as a human, connect to that communication is a pretty mind-blowy thought. Because I score all the music for the show, I'm going to take this music from this plant and use the themes and kind of the vibe maybe of the synthy vibe of the whatever that software is they're using, and build the score for this forest. Because the sarsaparilla is kind of everywhere, we can use its voice to speak to this space. And that's just neat, period. So Robert's at the Fungus Festival speaking. I wanted to put up some of these mushrooms over here. It's just a kind of a no-brainer opportunity to put up some lobster flavor into something. And I kind of thought while we were here, one of the things that's really rad in Sycamoose is the D. Dutchman dairy. They make really great dairy. And so I've got a pound of butter, a few of the lobsters. I'm just gonna rip up the lobsters, get them going in a pot, make a compound butter with the lobsters. The idea is that the butter gets infused with the lobster flavor, and then I can use that later in various dishes kind of later throughout the fall. A sneaky little trick to nick a piece of butter that's already loaded with flavor and go into a pan. So a little butter to start. I think I'm just gonna rip it into chunks. Like Robert says, day-old crab, for sure. I've crabbed a lot. That's exactly, he was spot on. That's his vibe. It's got this kind of seafood funk that's not, you don't have to dig for. Wow. It's like really obvious and apparent. Super cool ingredient. All right, I'm just gonna whack the butter in and let it steep. Normally when I make a compound butter, I'm folding ingredients, like say lemon, garlic, fine herbs or something, into a room temp butter and just folding it, rolling it into a log and wrapping it in plastic wrap it in the freezer. But this wasn't an option. It's too cold to have room temp butter here. And also I wanted to infuse the flavor of the lobster mushroom into the butter. Instantly funky on the nose, instantly like super engaging of the brain of like, whoa, the possibilities, so cool. Pick a fungus that attacks a fungus that tastes like seafood is like just so engaging the brain, and it's just more exciting to me than trying to just add layers of complexity and knowledge to red meat cookery, which I've been doing literally my whole life. So I'm not dissing red meat, I'm not dissing hunting. I guess I'm trying to encourage people to think a bit or a lot beyond just the hunt and just chasing another species, or even the race to, kill all the species, is when it's kind of like, why? Wow. That is so cool.
Anybody who's a mushroom hunter has to have a mushroom knife. And so you always have a blade that's a little curved. And of course you want to leave a lot of this back in the forest. You don't want to bring it into your house. Look at the color of that. Isn't it beautiful? And then so you have a mushroom knife that at the other end has a brush, and you can do all the cleaning right in the forest before you pop them into your basket, and saves a lot of hassle later. Yeah, I mean, a little cleaning. You're going to have to cut this and get the rest of it, but basically there you go. Yeah, some of them have really long stipes on them.
Look at this one, still looks like it's being transformed.
There it is. That's an intermediate.
Amazing.
Right. Yeah.
So still good?
Yeah, it's enough parasiticized. Yeah, exactly. It's still got the gills, right?
Wow. They're so cool.
Well, here's a lobster mushroom that has been fully parasiticized by the hypholoma. This one right here, you can see that the gills are pretty well beginning to be gone of the russula, but they haven't been fully parasiticized right through thoroughly. At this stage, you can still eat this. This is a good choice edible. This whole thing, this whole area is just like, wow.
I know this guy. Combs tooth or hericium coralloides. I teach this one. It grows on these barkless logs that are laid on the ground.
It contains compounds called coralloides, A to D or whatever. They have been shown in vitro and in mice studies to be able to increase brain neuron growth factor. And they're all super tasty. Like, I love to make crab cakes with these.
Robert's chanterelle vodka reminded me distinctly of a Nocino, a black walnut Nocino that Mel had brought to camp. And I was thinking, well, man, what did Mel do with that? And she'd made a maple old-fashioned. Okay, it's time for the chanterelle vodka to get into a drink. I'm going with 2 ounces of this rye. And Robert and I will share this, so we can safely walk out of here. That'll be the extent of it. Mm-hmm. Complexity in this drink is going to come entirely from the chanterelle vodka, which has got kind of molassesy. This is a special moment, so a little heavy on that. Molassesy, kind of fruity, dried fruity, apricot-y, all that kind of stuff going on. A little bit of ice, and then the sweet component, I did nick some of the sarsaparilla and cedar from the forest that we were visiting. The apricot and orangey, peachy notes in cedar will play really nice with the chanterelle vodka. So I'm just going to add a shot of sweetness, kind of like an old-fashioned would get a nice sugar cube or something. Basically that.
All right.
And a bit of a stir. I really enjoy when you can take things from your experience here and fold it into the dish, fold it into your drink. It really makes for a far more profound adventure and experience, and that's not for everyone, I get it, but it's for us.
Thank you.
Bud. Cheers.
Cheers. It almost has like a toffee type undertone or something. Absolutely delicious. Like, how did that combination of ingredients lead to this like superb cocktail? Rich in toffee. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Robert always impresses. Every single time we hang out, I can't believe the knowledge that Robert has in his head. It's unbelievable. So I've deepened my understanding of, the lobster mushroom for sure, but other ingredients that are out here, including the cedar and sarsaparilla and the chanterelle. I had no idea we'd ever work with a mushroom tincture in a cocktail. Yeah, just overall an amazing experience. Beautiful plate, sir. Really great job.
Thank you. Still crunchy.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. It's crunchy and punchy, like the acid and the allium. Mm. Mm-hmm. The lack of acidity in the drink I thought would be a poor pairing, but it's actually nice because you go back to sweet and round. And this is like cutting and bracing. And then you go back to this and it's like washes your palate again.
You know what? That's right.
Like really, actually ended up being a really good pairing.
Yeah, it actually has. Oh, it's been a wonderful trip, Kevin. It's not only been a good opportunity for us to get to know each other better, but just sharing of the knowledge of the forest and talking and really communicating about our love of nature and food and how that really helps create community.